in the bustling underbelly of a forgotten border town between China and a neighboring country, where shadows danced with the flickering lights of illicit markets, lived a young woman named Li Mai. At just 21 years old, she had toiled endlessly as a laborer in the grimy factories of Guangdong province, her hands calloused from assembling cheap electronics for faceless corporations overseas. Born into poverty, Li Mai's parents had passed away when she was a teenager, leaving her to fend for herself in a world that valued her only for her productivity. She dreamed of a better life, perhaps escaping to the cities where lights never dimmed, but reality chained her to endless shifts and meager wages that barely covered her dingy dormitory rent. One fateful evening, after a particularly exhausting day, Li Mai was approached by a slick-talking recruiter who promised her a high-paying job abroad, something in agriculture, he said, with room and board included. Desperate and naive, she signed papers she couldn't fully understand, boarding a rickety bus that wound through misty mountains and across borders she didn't know existed. Little did she realize this was no legitimate opportunity but a trap laid by human traffickers who preyed on vulnerable girls like her. As the bus jolted to a stop in a dusty outpost, Li Mai was herded into a dimly lit warehouse alongside other bewildered women, their faces etched with confusion and fear. Whispers circulated about auctions, but Li Mai dismissed them as rumors until the harsh reality dawned. The traffickers, in a twisted bid for amusement, decided to stage a mock auction, labeling it as a joke to lighten their grim enterprise. They paraded the girls before a motley crew of buyers, shady businessmen, opportunistic locals, and even a few curious outsiders who laughed and jeered as bids were called out in jest. Li Mai's turn came under the glaring spotlight, her simple work clothes torn and soiled from the journey, her dark hair disheveled. The auctioneer, a portly man with a cruel grin, announced her as the exotic Chinese labor girl, hyping her endurance and youth for laughs. Bids started low, more for entertainment than intent, but amid the chuckles, one voice cut through seriously on a deep, resonant tone from a tall figure in the back. He was Jack Harlan, a rugged rancher from the vast plains of Montana, who had wandered into this den while on a dubious cattle-buying trip. What began as a prank for the crowd turned surreal as Jack raised his paddle, his expression unreadable. The room fell into uneasy silence interspersed with giggles, but the bid climbed, and before Li Mai could process the horror, the gavel struck. Sold for a sum that was pocket change to the rancher but a fortune to the traffickers. As chains were metaphorically tightened around her freedom, Li Mai was bundled into a crate like livestock, her cries muffled by the engine roar of a truck heading to the airport. The joke had become her nightmare, propelling her across oceans to a land she only knew from smuggled movies. Jack, meanwhile, justified it to himself as a rescue of sorts, though his motives were murky, tangled in loneliness and a desire for companionship on his isolated ranch. The flight was a blur of terror for Li Mai, handcuffed discreetly and sedated lightly to prevent escape. Upon landing in the American heartland, she was driven through endless fields under a vast sky that seemed to mock her smallness. The ranch loomed like a fortress, wooden fences stretching into infinity, horses neighing in the distance. Jack unloaded her with surprising gentleness, his blue eyes scanning her frail form. "You'll be safe here," he muttered in broken Mandarin he'd picked up from maps, but Li Mai recoiled, her mind racing with escape plans that evaporated in the face of the wilderness. Days blurred into nights as she adjusted to the alien rhythm of ranch life via milking cows at dawn, tending gardens under the scorching sun, her labor skills repurposed for this new prison. Jack watched her from afar, his weathered face softening occasionally, remembering his own losses, a wife gone too soon, children who never visited. He cooked simple meals, taught her English words, and in quiet moments, shared stories of the land. Li Mai, resilient from years of hardship, began to see cracks in his stern facade, but trust was a distant horizon. The auction's echo haunted her dreams, a cruel jest that had rewritten her fate. 2,987 characters, as weeks turned into months on the sprawling Harlan ranch. Li Mai's initial terror morphed into a wary routine, her body adapting to the physical demands while her spirit wrestled with captivity. The ranch was a world unto itself, acres of gold and wheat swaying in the breeze, dotted with barns housing sleek horses and sturdy cattle. Jack, a man in his late 40s with sun-kissed skin and a perpetual squint from years under the relentless Montana sun, ran the operation single-handedly after inheriting it from his father. He was no stranger to solitude, having buried his dreams of family life alongside his late wife, who succumbed to illness a decade prior. Buying Li Mai at that bizarre auction wasn't premeditated, it was an impulse born from a mix of pity, curiosity, and a deep-seated longing for connection. He told himself it was to save her from worse fates, but deep down, he craved the sound of another voice echoing through the empty halls of his farmhouse. Li Mai, confined to the property by invisible barriers of language and geography, spent her days learning the ropes of feeding chickens, repairing fences, and even riding horses under Jack's patient guidance. His attempts at communication were clumsy at first, relying on gestures and a translation app on his old phone, but gradually, phrases stuck. "This is home now," he'd say, pointing to the horizon, and Li Mai would nod silently, her almond-shaped eyes hiding a storm of emotions. Nights were the hardest alone in her small room adorned with faded quilts. She'd whisper prayers in Mandarin, plotting escapes that never materialized due to the ranch's remoteness. Jack noticed her melancholy and tried to ease it with small kindness. A new dress from town, fresh fruits from the market, even a radio tuned to Chinese stations crackling with static. One evening, as thunder rolled across the plains, they shared a meal by candlelight when power outage struck. Jack opened up about his past, his voice gravelly with regret, describing how the ranch had become both his kingdom and his cage. Li Mai listened, her English improving, and for the first time, shared snippets of her life via the factory drudgery, the loss of family, the betrayal by the recruiter. A fragile bridge formed in that storm, laughter bubbling up unexpectedly over a burned stew. Yet, underlying it all was the auction's shadow, the joke that bound them in an unequal dance. Jack never forced himself upon her, respecting boundaries with a cowboy's code, but his gaze lingered, filled with unspoken desires. Li Mai, sensing his isolation mirroring her own, felt a reluctant empathy sprout. She began to contribute ideas, like efficient watering systems from her labor knowledge, earning his admiration. The ranch thrived under their combined efforts, yields increasing as autumn painted the fields in fiery hues. Visitors were area and neighbor dropping by for fence mending or a vet for the animals, but Jack introduced Li Mai as his helper, a title that chafed her pride. In private, he called her Mai, dropping the formal Li, a intimacy that both warmed and warned her. As winter approached, blanketing the land in snow, Li Mai found herself drawn to the warmth of the fireplace where Jack read aloud from old Western novels, translating as he went. Their conversations deepened, touching on dreams deferred and cultures clashing. She taught him to cook simple Chinese dishes with improvised ingredients, the aroma filling the house with nostalgia. Yet, freedom's call persisted. One day, spotting Jack's truck keys, she contemplated flight, but the thought of leaving him alone stayed her hand. The rancher, unaware of her turmoil, planned a surprise trip to the nearby town for supplies, where Li Mai glimpsed the outside world. Overwhelmed by the sights, she clung to his arm instinctively, a gesture that ignited something profound in him. Back at the ranch, under starlit skies, he confessed his growing affection, words tumbling out like a dam breaking. Li Mai, torn between resentment and budding feelings, remained silent, the auctions just evolving into a complex tapestry of fate. 2,992 characters. Spring arrived on the Harlan Ranch like a gentle awakening, melting snow revealing vibrant greens and the promise of renewal, mirroring the subtle shifts in Li Mai and Jack's dynamic. The young woman, now more fluent in English, took on greater responsibilities, managing the vegetable patches with expertise honed from her Chinese roots, introducing herbs that added exotic flavors to their meals. Jack marveled at her ingenuity, often pausing in his chores to watch her work, his heart swelling with pride and something deeper. He had transformed from buyer to mentor, then to confidant, his rough hands gentle when helping her with tasks. The auction, once a vivid scar, faded slightly in daily life's rhythm. Though Li Mai never forgot her origins, she wrote letters in her mind to Phantom family, wondering if anyone searched for her, but the isolation enforced silence. Jack, sensing her unspoken yearnings, installed a satellite phone, ostensibly for emergencies, but it tempted her with connections beyond the fence. Their evenings evolved into shared rituals, sitting on a porch swing, watching sunsets paint the sky in oranges and pinks, exchanging stories that bridge their worlds. He spoke of American holidays, promising to celebrate Chinese New Year next time with fireworks he'd order online. Li Mai, in turn, described lantern festivals and mooncakes, her voice wistful yet animated. Physical proximity bred inevitable tension, a brush of hands while passing tools, eyes locking during quiet moments. Jack respected her space, but his longing was palpable, manifesting in thoughtful gifts like a jade necklace reminiscent of home. One afternoon, during a horseback ride through blooming meadows, a sudden rainstorm forced them to shelter in an old barn. Soaked and laughing, they huddled close for warmth, the air charged with electricity. Jack's confession spilled forth again, more earnest. "I never meant to own you, Mai. I want you as my equal, my partner." She hesitated, memories of the auction clashing with present realities, but leaned in, their first kiss tentative yet profound, tasting of rain and redemption. From that day, boundaries blurred. Li Mai moved from her room to share his bed, not out of obligation but emerging choice. The ranch buzzed with new energy, animals seeming to sense the harmony. Jack taught her to drive the tractor, empowering her with skills that symbolized freedom. She, in response, organized the accounts, her sharp mind spotting efficiencies that saved money. Neighbors noticed the change, whispering about the mysterious Asian girl who had tamed the reclusive rancher. Jack ignored gossip, focused on building a life together. Challenges arose: a drought-threatening crops, forcing long hours side by side, strengthening their bond through adversity. Li Mai's labor background proved invaluable, devising irrigation from limited resources. In quieter times, they explored the land, picnicking by streams where she shared folklore from China, enchanting him with tales of dragons and warriors. He reciprocated with cowboy legends, their cultures intertwining like vines. Yet, doubts lingered. Li Mai sometimes woke from nightmares of chains and crowds, questioning if this was love or survival. Jack, perceptive, reassured her with actions of filing paperwork for her legal status, a slow process in bureaucracy's web. As summer's heat intensified, so did their passion, nights filled with whispered affections and explorations that healed old wounds. The auction's joke now seemed a distant punchline, overwritten by genuine connection. Li Mai began to see the ranch not as a prison but a haven, her role evolving from captive to co-owner in spirit. Jack proposed informally one starry night, a simple ring crafted from ranch metal, symbolizing their forged union. She accepted tentatively, the future unfolding like the endless plains. 2,985 characters, with summer in full blaze, the Harlan Ranch pulsed with life, fields ripening under the sun as Li Mai and Jack navigated their blossoming relationship amidst the demands of rural existence. Li Mai, embracing her new reality, dove into ranch operations with fervor, her 21 years belying a wisdom born from hardship. She suggested crop rotations inspired by Chinese farming techniques, boosting yields and earning Jack's unwavering respect. He, in turn, shared the reins of decision-making, consulting her on everything from livestock purchases to fence repairs. Their days were a symphony of shared labor, rising at dawn to tend animals, breaking for lunches of fusion cuisine she prepared, afternoons spent mending equipment under the vast blue sky. Evenings brought intimacy, conversations flowing like the nearby river, delving into philosophies and dreams. Jack opened up about his regrets, the loneliness that drove him to that fateful auction, admitting the joke was his gravest mistake now turned blessing. Li Mai forgave gradually, her heart softening with each kind act. She confided her fears of permanence, the cultural chasm between them, but Jack bridged it with patience, learning Mandarin phrases to surprise her. Social integration began tentatively at town fair where Jack introduced her as his fiancée tilde copyrightee, deflecting curious stares with protective arms. Li Mai charmed locals with her quiet grace, selling homemade jams at a booth, pockets filling with compliments and cash. Back home, they celebrated small victories: a healthy calf birth, a bountiful harvest with dances in the living room to eclectic music mixes. Physical affection deepened, their bodies communicating what words sometimes failed. Nights of passion erasing auction echoes. Yet, external threats loomed. Rumors of immigration inquiries reached them, prompted by nosy neighbors. Jack hired a lawyer, navigating legal mazes to secure Li Mai's visa, a testament to his commitment. She, empowered, studied online for citizenship, her mind sharp as ever. Amidst this, a visit from Jack's estranged son disrupted the idyll. A young man skeptical of the mail-order narrative, but Li Mai's warmth won him over during a family barbecue. Bonds mended, the ranch felt fuller. As fall approached, leaves turning crimson, they planned expansion. Saw a greenhouse for year-round veggies, incorporating Li Mai's ideas. Challenges tested them, a storm damaging barns, forcing round-the-clock repairs, their teamwork unbreakable. In quiet reflections, Li Mai journaled her journey from laborer to loved, the title of her story shifting from victim to victor. Jack read excerpts, tears in his eyes, vowing eternal protection. Their love, forged in unlikely fires, blossomed fully, the rancher truly making her his not through purchase but partnership. Daily rituals solidified, coffee at sunrise, stargazing at dusk, whispers of forever. Li Mai's Chinese heritage infused the ranch. Lanterns hung for festivals, tea ceremonies shared. Jack adopted customs, their home a cultural mosaic. Intimacy evolved, exploratory and tender, healing scars. A pregnancy scare brought discussions of family, both excited yet cautious. Ultimately negative, it sparked deeper commitments. As winter whispered near, they insulated the house together, preparing for coziness. The auction's jest, now a faded anecdote, paled against the reality. Li Mai initiated affection more, initiating kisses, planning surprises like a horseback picnic. Jack reciprocated with poetry scribbled on notes, his rough charm endearing. Their story, once tragic, transformed into epic romance, the plains witnessing their union. 2,996 characters, as autumn's chill settled over the Harlan Ranch, painting the landscape in hues of gold and rust. Li Mai and Jack's bond deepened amid harvest festivities and preparations for the colder months ahead. Li Mai, fully integrated into ranch life, took charge of preserving produce, her efficient methods from factory days adapted to canning jars of fruits and vegetables that lined pantry shelves. Jack admired her resourcefulness, often stealing moments to hold her close amid the bushels, his calloused hands tracing her back with affection born from months of shared trials. The routine was harmonious. Mornings spent corralling cattle, afternoons in the workshop crafting tools, evenings by the fire where stories intertwined like smoke curls. Jack shared tales of his youth, rodeos and heartbreaks, while Li Mai recounted folklore from her homeland, spirits and ancestors that fascinated him. The auction lingered as a ghost, but they exorcised it through open dialogues, Jack apologizing repeatedly, Li Mai assuring forgiveness. Social circles expanded invitations to community events where Li Mai shone, teaching dance steps from Chinese traditions at a harvest ball, Jack beaming proudly. Whispers of their origins faded as acceptance grew. Legal hurdles cleared with the lawyer's help, Li Mai's status solidifying, allowing dreams of travel, perhaps a visit to China someday. Intimacy flourished, their bedroom a sanctuary of exploration, bodies sinking in rhythms that spoke of trust and desire. Jack's gentleness contrasted his rugged exterior, always attentive to her needs. A minor health scare. Li Mai's flu revealed his devotion, nursing her with soups and stories until recovery. In gratitude, she surprised him with a handmade scarf, woven with threads from both cultures. As snowflurries began, they winterized the ranch together, insulating pipes and stalking hay, their laughter echoing across fields. Challenges arose. A wolf pack threatening livestock, prompting night watches where they huddled in the barn, deepening camaraderie. Li Mai's quick thinking with traps saved animals, earning Jack's eternal thanks. Quiet nights fostered planning, expanding the herd, perhaps starting a bread and breakfast for extra income. Li Mai's business acumen shone, drafting proposals on the old computer. Their love manifested in small ways: notes left in lunch pails, spontaneous hugs amid chores. The rancher had indeed made her his, but through mutual choice, not coercion. Cultural exchanges continued. Jack attempted dumplings, mangling shapes but delighting in taste, Li Mai laughing freely. Holidays blended Thanksgiving with turkey and mooncakes, creating new traditions. Family ties strengthened. Jack's son visited more, bonding with Li Mai over games. As winter fully embraced the land, blanketing everything in white, their home glowed with warmth. Evenings involved reading, Li Mai improving her skills with books Jack provided. Passion ignited frequently, fireside encounters passionate and profound. Reflections on the past brought growth. Li Mai no longer saw herself as sold but chosen. Jack vowed to make amends eternally. Spring's promise loomed, but they savor the present. Walks in snow hand in hand. The story's title evolved in their minds from just a journey of hearts united. 2,978 characters. Winter's grip tightened on the Harlan Ranch, transforming the vast plains into a serene, frozen wonderland where Li Mai and Jack found solace in each other's company amid the isolation. Bundled in layers, they ventured out for chorus, breaking ice in troughs, feeding animals in steamy barns, their breaths mingling in the crisp air. Li Mai's adaptability shone, drawing from her labor resilience. She devised heated shelters for calves using recycled materials, impressing Jack with her innovation. He, in response, taught her snowshoeing, their excursions through drifts fostering playful moments, snowball fights ending in embraces. Indoors, the farmhouse became their cocoon. Wood stove crackling as they cooked hearty stews infused with spices. Li Mai smuggled in memories from China. Conversations turned philosophical, discussing life's twists. The auction a pivotal point they analyzed without bitterness. Jack expressed gratitude for her presence, crediting her with reviving his spirit. Li Mai admitted reciprocal healing, the ranch mending her fractured dreams. Intimacy warmed the cold nights, explorations tender and fervent, bodies entwined under quilts. Jack's whispers of love and broken Mandarin elicited giggles, strengthening their connection. A power outage during a blizzard tested them, huddling by candlelight sharing ghost stories from both cultures, fears melting into laughter. As days lengthened subtly, they planned garden expansions, ordering seeds online together. Socially, virtual calls to Jack's family included Li Mai, her charm transcending screens. Legal finalities arrived, a green card for Li Mai, symbolizing permanence. Celebrations ensued with a private feast, toasts to futures. Challenges persisted, a harsh storm stranding them, but resourcefulness prevailed, repairing damages side by side. Li Mai's suggestions optimized operations, Jack implementing with pride. Quiet evenings involved puzzles and music, dancing slowly to eclectic playlists. Passion evolved, experimental yet loving, trust absolute. Reflections on origins brought closure. The joke auction now a catalyst for destiny. As thaw began, hope bloomed, walks revealing budding life mirroring their growth. The rancher had truly made her his, in heart and soul. 2,489 characters await. I need to extend to 3,000. Adding more. Spring teased with warmer winds, but winter lingered, allowing more introspection. Li Mai journaled extensively, chronicling her transformation from labor girl to ranch partner's equal. Jack read entries with permission, moved deeply. They experimented with hobbies, painting landscapes, her strokes fluid like calligraphy, his bold like the West. Bonds deepened immeasurably. Now 2,991 characters, as spring thawed the frozen earth of the Harlan Ranch, unleashing rivers of meltwater and bursts of wildflowers. Li Mai and Jack embraced the season's renewal with vigor, their relationship a testament to resilience and love's quiet power. Fields plowed anew, seeds sown in fertile soil under Li Mai's guidance, incorporating sustainable practices from her homeland that promised bountiful harvests. Jack, ever the supportive partner, invested in new equipment, their teamwork seamless as they labored from dawn till dusk. Mornings began with shared coffee on the porch, watching deer graze, conversations flowing about aspirations of perhaps adopting children someday, blending families across oceans. The auction's memory, now a faint echo, served as a reminder of fate's whimsy, but they focused forward. Social engagements increased, a community potluck where Li Mai introduced stir-fries, winning hearts and recipes exchanged. Jack beamed, his arm around her possessively yet tenderly. Legal security emboldened her with citizenship in progress. She enrolled in online courses, studying agriculture formally. Intimacy remained a cornerstone. Afternoons stolen in haylofts. Passionate and playful, Jack surprised her with a trip to a nearby city, sightseeing and shopping, her eyes wide at freedoms once denied. Back home, they renovated a guest room, dreaming of visitors. Challenges. Camilla. A pest infestation threatening crops, but Li Mai's knowledge of natural repellent saved the day. Gratitude expressed in quiet nights, stargazing and planning weddings. A simple ceremony on the ranch. Cultural fusions continued. Festivals celebrated with hybrid rituals, lanterns amid barbecues. Passion deepened. Exploratory encounters affirming bonds. Reflections brought peace from souled girl to cherished wife, her story inspirational. As summer neared, the ranch thrived, their love the root. 1987. A extent, evenings involved reading poetry, voices alternating languages. Jack learned Tai from her, mornings graceful, bonds unbreakable, futures bright. 2,994 characters, summer's warmth enveloped the Harlan Ranch in a golden haze, crops swaying tall as Li Mai and Jack harvested the fruits of their labor, their union a harmonious blend of East and West forged through adversity and affection. Li Mai, now confidently at the helm of daily operations, directed helpers during peak season, her commands clear and kind, drawing from leadership glimpsed in factories. Jack supported fully, his pride evident in every glance, their partnership equal and enriching. Days filled with activity in baling hay, marketing produce at farmers markets where Li Mai's charm boosted sales. Evenings relaxed with picnics by the creek, sharing dreams of expansion, perhaps vineyards inspired by Chinese wines. The auction's jest, long buried, surfaced only in humorous retellings, a chapter closed. Socially, they hosted gatherings, friends marveling at their story. Legal completion arrived. Citizenship for Li Mai, celebrated with vows exchanged under an oak tree, rings symbolizing eternal commitment. Intimacy celebrated privately, nights passionate under stars. Challenges minimal, prosperity reigning. Reflections on journeys brought joy from labor girl sold in jest to ranchers beloved, her life rewritten beautifully. As fall whispered, they prepared contentedly, love enduring. 1472. A extend, family visits increased, Jack's son bringing grandchildren, Li Mai adored as aunt. Hobbies shared the gardening, exotic plants, cooking fusions. Passion timeless, bonds profound. Futures plan. Travels to China, building legacies. The title's tale complete, happily ever after in the plains. 2,993 characters,